Anyone who drives up and down motorways will be familiar with the heap of litter left on verges. Very familiar, in fact, because once it's there, it just seems to stay there, and it seems one can drive past the same litter for weeks on end. I'm amazed at the amount of rubbish that's thrown out of car windows. But thankfully, I'm not the only person who finds the state of the roads disgusting.
We're off to Junction 1 of the M40, which is known as the Denham Roundabout.
Retired financial advisor Peter Silverman is infuriated by litter left on motorway verges.
Look at that. Look at all that. And you can see litter all the way along the central reservation. More litter in the grass. We're now on the slip road, and as you can see, there's masses of litter. This is my local motorway slip road. It's junction 1 of the M40, and it's permanently littered. This side certainly is permanently littered.
It exasperates Peter that litter beside major roads lies around for ages.
This bag, which you may see, has been there for at least 6 weeks, and it's easily accessible on a pavement.
Peter is so fed up with seeing litter on motorways, he's made it his one-man campaign to get it taken away. When he sees litter, he photographs it so that he can report it to the authorities who should be cleaning it up.
I make sure that if I'm doing any photography on or around a motorway, I'm in a safe area. I'm on a pavement or on a bridge. Occasionally I will step a few yards along a quiet slip road. But don't tell the highways agency that.
5 years ago, Peter decided to try to do something about the litter strewn along his local motorway. He discovered that the Secretary of State for Transport and the Highways Agency have a legal duty to keep motorways litter-free. So he formed an organisation called Clean Highways, and in 2010 he went to court at his own expense to demand that the M40 was cleaned up. He won his case.
I'd certainly claim that this was down to my actions at the beginning of 2010. Because we know that within days of submitting the warning notice, we know that the litter pickers came out and they upped the amount of litter picking on the M40 from here onwards by a factor of 6 times.
Peter has gone to court 6 times. He won 4 cases, but the 2 he lost were expensive, costing him more than £10,000. Despite the financial risk, he's determined to carry on his Clean Highways campaign. Litter picking on motorways is done by contractors employed by the Highways Agency.
Well, we're here on the A23 at Hooley in Surrey, and our contractors are picking litter from the lay-by. This is actually something they do every single week because litter is such a huge problem in this area. My personal view is that it is absolutely shocking. It's almost unbelievable that the British travelling public think it is socially acceptable to whip these things out of their window onto our roads in the knowledge that some poor worker has to pick it up.
And motorway litter poses a unique problem. Clearing it up is particularly dangerous and disruptive.
It's so dangerous to do things on motorways that we won't let them do it unless we put traffic management out and lane closures. If they're going to litter pick on the Central Reserve, they will have to shut the outside lanes in both directions. And if you think about it, if we can do a mile of litter picking, that's at least 2 miles of traffic management having put out. It's horrendously expensive, it's disruptive to motorists, and it's such a waste.
It takes just a moment for a selfish motorist to chuck litter from a car, but the repercussions are shocking.
We estimate we spend something like £6 million every single year clearing litter from motorways. Something like 175,000 sacks of litter pulled off our motorways every single year.
But despite all this, plenty of litter seems to stay where it is.
Well, it's interesting looking at it, isn't it? What is it? That's probably thrown from somebody's car, a coffee cup. This looks like commercial waste.
Where it's worst is where vehicles are moving slowly. We find it where there are motorway junctions, people approaching a motorway, perhaps controlled by traffic signals. If they're forced to stop, there's a slight queue. Very often we find they'll wind down their window and just throw out their chewing gum, their cigarette wrapper, their cigarette butt.
All this litter looks horrible, but there's worse.
One of the big problems we have is, believe it or not, with people throwing human excrement out of vehicles. We regularly find empty bottles, empty drinks bottles full of urine. If you look over this fence, you'll see there are a large number of empty drinks bottles. Some of them you can actually see there's brown liquid in there, and I'm absolutely certain that is urine. Also, even more disturbingly, is that if you look down here, you'll see there's a large pile of excrement. Unfortunately, I am pretty certain that is human excrement.
Some truck drivers throw urine-filled bottles out of the window, or park up and then, hidden behind their vehicles, foul the lay-by. Special crews have to be called in to deal with it. It's mindlessly antisocial and disgusting.
What we can see here is really what I would call the black side of litter on England's motorways and trunk roads.
The Highways Agency man and the campaigner agree that motorway litter is a particularly British problem.
You wouldn't see that in France or Scandinavia or Germany.
I can only assume that there they have far greater social awareness and social conscience. There, people realise it's not socially acceptable to just throw their litter out. They're responsible, they take it home with them.
But as long as there is still litter along our British motorways, Peter Silverman will continue his campaign.
Well, the final goal, of course, as the name implies, clean highways, is to have clean highways. As clean as they are in Scandinavia, in France and so on. It's a long, hard road.